Hello and welcome to the Home and Energy Chats. My name is Heather Chandler and I am the owner and publisher of Green and Healthy Maine Homes magazine. Each episode we chat with industry experts and homeowners to help you learn about building healthy, efficient, and sustainable homes. This episode we'll be talking about one homeowner's path to building a new home in Brunswick that prioritized single-floor living, accessibility, and universal design elements for aging in place. We will explore lessons learned along the way and share some tips for others who might be embarking on a similar project. I would like to start by sharing a special thank you to our sponsors, including Royal River Heat Pumps, our annual sponsor. Royal River Heat Pumps is a locally owned and operated company that is nationally recognized for heat pump excellence and is 100% committed to the highest standards of quality installations, service and practices, and customer satisfaction online at royalriverheatpumps.com. And thank you also to our season sponsor, Senecal Construction Services, offering net zero custom designs in Mid-Coast Maine. Senecal turns dream homes into reality with a team of passionate craftspeople and energy efficient quality. Learn more at senecalconstruction.com. And now a little bit about us. Green and Healthy Maine Homes is dedicated to inspiring healthy, efficient, and future-ready Maine homes. In addition to these home and energy chats, we also publish a quarterly magazine and host the annual Green Home and Energy Show every spring. We publish a directory for finding Maine home professionals that specialize in helping you create healthy, efficient, high-performing homes. And you can learn more about all of that on our website, greenmainehomes.com. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our guest today, Dennis Tefft. Hello, Dennis.
Hello.
Dennis is a retired kitchen and bath designer who lives in Brunswick with his wife, Paula. The Teffts are now living in their 1,800 square foot home that was completed in 2023. The home is a one-story and built on a slab instead of a full basement. It has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and incorporates many universal design features to facilitate aging in place. And we did write about the Teffts house in our fall issue of Green and Healthy Maine Homes, and are so happy to be here with you today, Dennis, to learn a little bit more about your journey to creating your home. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
As the state with the highest average age in the country, I think this topic is one that is of interest to many people here in Maine. To get us started, can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to build your new home?
Well, when we built our first home, we built a 2-story salt box with a basement, and the stairways were fairly steep and narrow. And over time, the roadway that we lived on became very busy. Originally, the road was a rural route, a rural route mailbox, and the road was unimproved as it came by our house. We also, the sewer line from Brunswick Sewer ended about 10 or 15 feet short of the end of our driveway. So we ended up having to run our sewer line under the driveway at an angle. As time went on, the street became busier and busier and noisier. Within 6 years of building our original home in 1980, there were 1,000 housing units built within a 1-mile radius of us. So the street became very, very busy. There was an 11-acre farm behind us when we first built, with just a barn sitting out in the middle of a field and forest behind that barn. And so it was very quiet and peaceful when we first built there. It became so noisy at the end of our journey in that home that we couldn't sleep at night with the windows open in the summer. And the house would literally shake when there were large trucks going by. Because of the ground, we had a lot of water in that ground. The water table was very high, and it was sandy soil, so that it was very almost like jello. So it would vibrate when a large truck went by. So we got tired of that. We couldn't go out in the yard and work in our gardens without a lot of noise and commotion. And so we decided we needed to move out of that area. So we started looking for a lot, and in 2016, I decided we had to seriously look for a lot. So I found, after looking for a year, I found a lot that we liked. It had everything that we needed: southern exposure, isolation from neighbors, and away from any noisy streets. So we bought that lot and started planning the home. It was a big change, and the other factor that went into needing to move was I'd been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and knew that the home that we were in was not going to work out in the long term. So we started to looking at a place where we could build a home that we could age in place.
Something that is important to all of us to be thinking about. What were a few of your goals in building the new house, a few of your other goals?
Well, we wanted to have a one-story home. We needed to have a little more space than we had originally because we lived in a two-bedroom salt box, raised two children, and it was very cramped for many years, but it was wonderful because we were close together. But we decided we wanted to have a little bit more space than that. And as I told my friends, we're going to upsize when they asked me if we're going to downsize. And I said, no, we've lived in the downsize for 45 years. Time to move on and move up and move out. So we decided to make a house a little bit bigger, not a lot. The original home was 1,500 square feet, and the new home was designed at 1,800 square feet. So we only added 300 square feet to it. We also added a two-car garage, which was a plus, which we had never had a garage before. We also added a walk-in shower and lots of things that we designed in this home that would accommodate my Parkinson's disease. The single floor was the most important thing. We had no thresholds in the doorways. We had extra wide passageways. Halls were 45 inches wide instead of the standard 42. Doorways were all 36 inches. So those are things that would accommodate my needs as we aged.
When we spoke earlier, you had mentioned that as a kitchen and bath designer, that your past experience really helped you in creating the design and the visuals for your home. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yes, I was very fortunate to have been a kitchen bath designer actually, and I worked for Hammond Lumber and Down East Building Supply for many years, about 35 years, as a kitchen and bath designer. And part of what we learned as kitchen and bath designers was aging in place and universal design. Universal design is basically designing a kitchen, bath, or a public space, or any space, a home, so that anybody can use the space, whether you're old, young, child, an old person, disabled, or perfectly healthy. So it's designed for everybody. So everybody can use it no matter what their age or disability. Some examples of that are spaces around toilets, spaces in the bathroom so that you can, if you end up in a wheelchair, you can bring your wheelchair in, turn it, maneuver around in the space. Spaces between kitchen counters. We've got a large island in our kitchen, and it's very handy to have 45 inches between the countertops, just so you can maneuver. And, if I'm ever in a wheelchair, I'd be able to move in. It's also just enough space so two people can walk side by side in opposite directions, shoulder to shoulder, and pass by one another. So that's an important thing. Lack of thresholds, again, that's a very important thing. One thing that happens and I'm speaking specifically from my own experience, one of the things that I have with this Parkinson's is my gait freezes, so I'll stop, my legs will stop working. It happens specifically where I have narrow spaces or thresholds. So if I have no threshold, then I'm able to work through that quite easily, or more easily than not. The other thing that universal design will have is open showers, accessible showers. We have in one of our bathrooms, we have a roll-in shower where I can actually, if I'm ever in a wheelchair, actually roll in across a rubber threshold that mashes down, and you roll into it with a wheelchair. And it's large enough so that it will accommodate a wheelchair with a person in it. So those are some good examples.
Such important elements for all of us. I'd love to see that in more of our homes as a general rule.
Yes, I would too.
And supporting my mother in some of her challenges around aging and getting around the house, and some of these are very familiar.
As far as universal design goes, we see a lot of public spaces or restaurants or businesses that have handicapped parking spaces. Then they don't have automatic doors, or they have very narrow doorways, or they have an automatic door in the entryway, but no automatic door on the restrooms. And so that's always a problem for me and for anybody else who's disabled as well. I've seen one space that I can think of in my life that had an automatic door with a push button for a men's restroom, which was very handy. So those are examples of universal design, and that's something that I think should be incorporated into more public spaces.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Can you say a little bit more about some of those specific accessibility elements that you were looking for in your new home?
Yes, very minimal steps. We have to have a step up from the garage, and so that was the major thing: is no steps, no stairways, and then no impediments at the thresholds. So we have no thresholds in the doorways. We have grab bars installed where needed, and that's still an ongoing thing. As you lose your ability to walk and function with Parkinson's, you learn that there are spaces where you need grab bars because that's where you fall or that's where you slip or lose balance. So I've been adding those slowly to the home. So those are things that we thought of right up front too. We had contractor install blocking in the walls in order to accommodate grab bars. And that's a good thing to do right from the get-go. Just have blocking where you think you might need grab bars, entering rooms or in bathrooms and areas where you might slip or fall.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And I think you had also said that you had your contractor take photos of the interior of the walls where all the blocking was before the sheetrock, so that you knew where you could add elements in the future.
Yeah, and I actually knew where those spaces were because I had designated those during the construction phase. But it was a good idea to have those photographed and so as reminders, so I could see exactly where they were, and then I could measure from the stud wall or the entry door, so forth. And he did every wall in the house, and he labeled them northeastern, and north bedroom wall north, west bedroom wall north. And so I knew exactly which wall it was and was able to find where the studs were. And it's also helpful if you're hanging heavy things on the walls, like heavy pictures, so you don't penetrate any water lines or electrical wires.
I learned that the hard way. I had an electric short.
It happens.
It's good for a lot of reasons. So those elements sound like elements that would really be helpful to all of us as we age, which it sounds like that's the foundation of the universal design.
And I think you're right. I think it would be interesting to see the state of Maine requiring more of these things as just commonplace, common sense design. We've done pretty well with the requirement to build more efficient homes, but we could go a little bit further with that. We can also go a long ways with universal design in homes as a requirement.
Yeah, I'm going through it right now with my mother, who just moved into a new apartment and is having some difficulty with mobility, and a lot of the things that you're talking about, she's facing. And, you know, she has grab bars that she wants to have installed, but doesn't know where the blocks are. You know, like there's no way for her to know where, like there's going to have to be new blocking installed to do those. And then, you know, the room around the toilet. And fortunately, the tub does have a walk-in. She can walk into the tub, but that's really helpful. Yeah, but you just don't think about it until you have to.
That's right. And I was fortunate in some ways because I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, so just as I was beginning to design the house, and realized that I had to design it so I could live here and for a while longer.
Were there any resources that you accessed in designing your home specifically around the universal design elements, or any design resources that you found to be particularly helpful?
Well, I had had a lot of experience with the NKBA, which is the National Kitchen and Bath Association. I learned a lot from them in the courses that I took on universal design. If you go to the web, your web browser, and just plug in universal design concepts, you'll get a multitude of websites that offer, in many cases, very free information on what the principles of universal design are. Some of them very specific. I think the NKBA actually has a PDF that you can download that has like 10 or 15 different things for bathrooms and kitchens. Those are probably the most important spaces because they have the most important, hard surfaces that you could hit against or fall against. So universal design is very, very much in the educational field now. If you're doing architecture courses anywhere at a university, they very often will have universal design included in those.
How did implementing some of these universal design elements, or did it affect the project costs? Is there an additional percentage you need to be thinking about?
I don't know about percentage. I mean, there are certain things that are somewhat expensive. The walk-in shower, the roll-in shower is an expensive item. Probably twice the cost of a typical 6-foot shower or 5-foot shower. It's not exorbitant, I don't think. The actual cost of making the spaces larger is pretty minimal because it might be a few extra wall studs or just to open up the space a little bit. It's really not that much more expensive as far as the space goes, because 1,800 square feet is not a huge house. We've got plenty of space coming into the house. The hallway is 48 inches wide, and it allows plenty of space to travel through if you had a wheelchair or a walker. The hallways are 45 inches, which is not a lot bigger than 42 inches. So that doesn't add a lot of cost as far as that goes, as far as the space goes. And I don't think overall a house that incorporates universal design principles costs a lot more money.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you for sharing a little bit more about your Parkinson's diagnosis. I appreciate that. And I'm wondering if there are any elements, or how have the elements of your homes designed impacted your quality of life with the Parkinson's disease?
Well, I don't think I would be able to function without this setup, really. Not at this point. And now, 2 years ago, that would have been a different story. I was pretty functional. But after we finished the house and we were getting ready, moving stuff in, and this Parkinson's really started to take over in my body, I was falling pretty frequently. I fell once a week for the first year we were here. And that was not because of the design. It was more because I was always in a hurry. I was a very fast person from my youth, and I was not slowing down enough to accommodate my gait function. So as far as the house goes and the design of the house, if we were in our old house, I'd probably be a dead man because of the stairways. They're very narrow and steep, and I don't think I would have been able to function. So the single story is just almost absolutely necessary, or at least having a space on the first floor of a home. If you've got a two-story home, make a space that will accommodate someone who's disabled to live there. I remember the other inspiration was my father-in-law many years ago. When he became disabled, and he had to live in a bedroom on the first floor, but they did not have a good shower for him, just a tiny shower. So it wasn't a bathroom that could accommodate his needs very well. So that was difficult. And they had a two-story home. The upstairs became taboo for him, so he was pretty much confined to the lower level of the house.
And that really affects our independence.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it does. I mean, I can go anywhere in this house without any difficulty.
I'd love to hear a little bit about your home's energy efficiency. So can you tell us a little bit about design features that promote efficiency in your new home?
We've got 10 inches of dense pack insulation in the walls, R38 in the walls, and R68 in the ceilings. So the walls are 10 inches thick. It's double stud wall, which is common in net zero housing today. Then the foundation slab has got 4 inches of rigid insulation underneath it, and on the inside of the frost wall is 4 inches of insulation, rigid insulation as well. So it's a very well insulated home. In fact, today we brought the temperature up to 70 degrees. There's lots of sun coming in the home now in the south face of the house. So it's very, very comfortable right here. And we won't turn the heat back on until tonight, even though it's pretty chilly outside. So, the daytime temperature, if the sun is out, is almost to the point where I have to open windows in this house. Even though we've got the ERV, the air source coming in, and it does even out the temperature somewhat, but it's nice when it gets up to around 72, 73 degrees in the house because of the sunlight. Nice to open the window and have some nice fresh air. That isn't to say, I don't mean to insinuate that the ERV does not give us fresh air, because it does. But it's just nice to feel the outdoor air.
I get that. Yeah. So you've lived in the house for a little over a year now. How is it performing?
Yeah, we've actually done very well. Everything is electrical here. We have heat pumps for the AC and the heat. We've got a induction range, an electric hot water heater. So everything all the major functions of the house are electrical. We have a septic system that's got a pump in it. So our average cost per month is $40 plus, which is about approximately $100 less than the average home in Maine per month. Yeah. We have solar panels on the roof, on the garage roof, which face east and west. So they're effective almost all day long. That was the thing we debated about with the orientation. We could have put them on the south face of the roof of the main body of the house, but I didn't really want them there. So we put them on the east and west of the garage, which faces due east and due west. And right now we're getting about, I can actually tell you in a second. We're getting approximately 500 or 600 kilowatt hours per day.
Good feeling.
Yeah, actually, we've got 430 kilowatt hours this month. So far, 432. And the average, and that's not, the month is only partly done, and that's about average use per month right there, electricity. So we're actually banking electricity right now with CMP.
We mentioned earlier that you had opted for a slab foundation instead of a full foundation. Wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and what was the reasoning behind that choice?
The main reason was my contractor, Nate Ellis, said, this is going to be a house where you're going to age in place. You don't want a basement.
Smart contractor.
Yeah, yeah. So we put it on a slab and it's worked out very well. I mean, we had a little challenge with storage, but we've got plenty of storage. We've got a nice walk-in closet in my main bedroom. We've got shelving in the garage because we made the garage a little oversized. So we have lots of storage space, probably more storage space than we need. As everybody knows, it will fill the space if it's there.
Careful how much you have. It will get filled. Looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently that you didn't incorporate?
Yeah, the only thing that I think I made a big mistake on was I put the propane, we have a whole house generator, propane generator. And I would have put, we made the mistake of putting the propane tanks on the eave side of the house, which is where the solar panels are. And the snow slid off those solar panels and buried those tanks every time it snowed. It's very annoying. So we had to get someone to shovel it out, and we had to have a cover on it to protect it from the ice and snow. So we've changed that. We moved all those tanks down to the gable end of the house. There won't be any problem with a snow load.
So it sounds like you planned well.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the only major thing that I can think of. I might have, made some ramps into the house from the garage. I will do that this winter or next spring probably. But other than that, I think the house has worked out very well for us. I'm very pleased with it.
It's wonderful. There's so many decisions that go into building a new home or doing a major renovation. Is there anything that you were on the fence about that you did and that you're glad you did?
Yes, two things. One was the solar panels, which was, and the other was finishing off the inside of our garage. So we actually finished the garage to the same specs as the house, insulation and sheetrock. And so it's now a very pleasant, relatively warm place, even without heat. It rarely gets below 45 degrees out there in the winter, even on the coldest days. Solar panels were a big expense, but we just decided to go for it and ended up being very happy with the result.
They do start paying for themselves right away.
Yeah, I think they'll pay for themselves in about 7 years. And if we don't get to enjoy that, someone else will.
And that insulated garage gives you some future expansion.
Yeah.
Turn that
into a wonderful space.
Any advice that you maybe haven't mentioned yet that you would give to others who are considering a similar build?
Well, my main advice is make sure you get a good contractor. Make sure you know who your contractor is. Make sure they're honest. They've got a good reputation. They understand all that goes into a home. And one thing that I liked about Nate Ellis was that he always called me back. So communication is a huge issue. And we all know what that can lead to if no one calls you back and you get a question, even if it's a minor question. And if Nate Ellis didn't have the answer right away, he would say so, and he would say, well, I'll find out for you.
Engenders a lot of confidence.
Yeah, so I had total confidence in him. He had good people that worked for him, good crew. Just make sure you know what you're getting into. It can be more expensive than you expect it to be. So make sure you're prepared for the unexpected. Make sure you understand how change orders work, because if you change something midstream, it's going to cost money, generally speaking. So yeah, I mean, that's basically it. Good contractor who you can trust, communicates well with you, and has good people working for him.
Sounds like a recipe for success.
Well, it was in this case, that's for sure.
So we mentioned earlier that our fall edition of the Green and Healthy Maine Homes magazine has a feature article about your house that was written by June Donenfeld. Are there any updates on the home since June talked to you? Anything new that you might want to add that wasn't in the article?
Well, we have added a couple of things. One because of my disability, and my wife was recently in the hospital. She's fine now, but we decided to put in a robotic vacuum cleaner, which doesn't do a perfect job, but it helps.
Nice for all of us.
Yeah, we're thinking about at some point maybe having a robotic lawnmower. We have a very small lawn, so it could be handled with that. And I've seen them at work. There's at the Highlands in Brunswick, in Thompson, excuse me, the Highlands. They use robotic lawnmowers there, which do a pretty good job. Currently, my grandson is mowing the lawn.
That's nice.
He's helping us out, so he may not always want to do that.
Right.
There may be a vacuum, an auto in the future.
I have a friend that's been using one of those this season, and he swears by it. He said it's great. So we have come to the end of our conversation today, and I just want to thank you again for joining us and for sharing so much of your personal journey with your house. I think this is super helpful for others who are, really for all of us, you know, thinking about renovations and thinking about new builds in the future. So I'm really grateful to you for sharing some of your time with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Also want to thank our sponsors, Royal River Heat Pumps and Senecal Construction Services. And thank you to our webinar producer, Rain Rayner, who handles everything so beautifully behind the scenes. Thank you, Rain. And for our listeners today, if you want to learn a little bit more about the Tefft House, including seeing some beautiful photos, that article is live on our website now at greenmainhomes.com. And you can also find out about future episodes of Home and Energy Chats there and catch up on recordings from all of our past episodes. So check that out. You can sign up for our newsletter there, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to learn more. Again, that's greenmainhomes.com. And thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you.